Monday, the 31st of July 2023. This is the Roscoe Palm Show. Paging Dr. Julius Malema to the cardiology department as racist chest pains abound. Institutional power calls all hands on deck to defend white privilege from a song. Meanwhile, a coup in Niger compromises former colonial power of France. Renowned Irish singer Shahuda Sadukat has died. Rest in peace to the artist formerly known as Sinead O'Connor. Finally, fill up your tanks, diesel and petrol going up on Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. I'm Roscoe Palm. I'm with my co-pilot Nantle Hopley. Nantle, it's been a hell of a week, hell of a time since we've last been on air together.
Yep. Missed you last week.
I missed you too, man.
Not cool. But yeah, just okay. The first thing, you just mentioned something about the song that Malema sang. So what did you say? What was the words that you used there?
What he said. Listen,
okay,
I don't want to be cancelled for like the second time in 2 weeks.
Okay,
like.
Okay. So what did you say about the just read it again the way you
I said paging Dr. Julius Malema to the cardiology department as racist chest pains abound. Institutional power calls all hands on deck to defend white privilege from a song.
I don't agree with you on that one.
Okay.
So you saying him singing that is right?
Look, it's a song. So okay, in the same way that like
look, it's a word. The K word. Look, it's a word. The N word. That's just a word.
Yo, we're going hard, but
we're going deep.
We go deep. But let's say, okay, so the Equality Court ruled that the Kill the Boer song does not constitute hate speech. That was already in August 24th, 2022. I would not sing that song. So I know the reason why I did that. It's so that he could have this reaction. Because politics is putting something out there and then having the reaction and then feeding off that reaction.
I actually don't agree with that. I think that we're living in a country with different people, and different people have different sufferings. And some people might think that their suffering is more valid than others, but still it's suffering. I think people are dying on farms. It might not be the genocide that they perpetuating it is, or saying that it is, but I think there is killings happening, and I think for you to sing that song is wrong in the face, because you're singing about your fellow South African man, and if you see it in that regard, I think it's wrong what they're doing. If you want equality and that is in your mind for all South Africans, then that song is wrong, irrespective of what that court said, because they got it wrong, in my humble opinion.
No, that is an opinion. Look, I personally would not have sung that song.
Okay.
I wouldn't have done that. I think they're much more pressing issues than a song, singing a song and harking back to history. But at the same time, the reaction has been very interesting. So I think before we've got my good friend Baydu Adams here. Baydu, looks like we dropped you straight into the controversy here.
I was like, why am I even here? Why don't you guys continue with your conversation?
No. Another thing happened in the last week, like I did a show. I think I just briefly want to address this thing because I will obviously be addressing this at length in the near future. But I was on Sizwe Mpofu Walsh, Dr. Sizwe Mpofu Walsh's Unfiltered show. They said that the show is unfiltered, so I didn't bring any filters. And then the subject matter was, I spoke about the media and the hold that certain people have over certain media. Yeah. And it must have had an effect. I mean, I spoke about the Oppenheimers, and then the next thing I know, that show was deleted from the SABC YouTube page, which has never, ever happened before.
I think the last time they had something like this, David Icke was on.
I mean, like,
and
yeah.
he's a but for me, what you said was, it's what we all know already. You know what I'm saying? And just you have receipts. The rest of the world, or the rest of us, mere mortals, don't have the receipts. You did your research, and I agree with you. It's wrong. But okay. That's bleeds into the conversation that we might have tonight, where that institution is liable for stuff like that, man. Where they have a boss, their boss have a boss and a boss. So you can phone or email and say, I'm not happy with it. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been on the other side. I've been a SABC employer or contractor, and somebody sent the email of stuff that I did wrong. You know what I'm saying? So I get from the inside and I get it from the outside. I get the whole idea.
What I don't understand about this, and a lot of facts are going to become clear, and I need to verify these facts before I commit myself to the record in the public sphere about these things. But for let's say, for example, Daily Maverick or Amambongani, which are private companies, separate from the SABC, to reach into the national broadcaster and have this thing pulled. Or maybe it's somebody on the show, maybe somebody on the SABC. There's definitely...
No, but I can give you an inside view of it. So once a complaint is laid, the procedure is the person would be taken off air. So if I've fluke or whatever the case may be, then I will be taken off air, and then the investigation will commence. And then once you clear, and then you can be on air again. So what I'm thinking is they're having the investigation. So now they're making it private on YouTube, the program. And once it's clear that you were just voicing your opinion and nothing came of it, hopefully they will make it public again.
Yeah, let's find out what that happened. There's a lot of.
What did you do?
So
He was being naughty again.
So the thing is, right? I said that there are, if you are paid by a certain institution to put things in a publication, that should be sponsored content. And I gave an example of two people in particular, Daily Maverick, Greg Mills and Ray Hartley, who write things with a very pro-American slant, paid for by one of the Oppenheimer's institutions, that ends its way into the Daily Maverick. And I said that this should be sponsored content, and because it has a clear bias, and people should know what, like, in the same way that you know how much salt is in a packet of chips, you should know that the stuff that makes up your media diet for your brain is as important as the stuff that makes up your diet for your sustenance. And then the next thing I know, God's like, hey, I can't find your video. It's deleted. Like, one of the premier flagship talk shows on SABC, just like that episode is just gone.
Maybe somebody just pushed the wrong button, man. I mean,
maybe somebody pushed the wrong. Maybe I pushed the wrong button. I don't know.
But while we're on that conflict thingy, I just want to read out a comment that was left on one of your YouTube videos, the clips. The host of this channel is an employee of the Pan-African Institution of Socialism, which Philip Dexter is the founder director of. That effectively makes Roscoe his employee, and he go this channel a mouthpiece for Philip Dexter. At the very least, there is a conflict of interest here that the channel should be disclosed to its viewers. So let's.
First of all,
I told this person,
I'm the director and co-founder of the institution.
Okay, sorry.
So I'm not an employee, like first.
Thanks for that. My gripe is where it says the channel is a mouthpiece. The channel has been existing since 2019, and I met Philip probably a month ago, 2 months ago. So how can this channel be? And the thing is, you have a variety, a potpourri. Van different type of people on here, and not just your show. There's more shows besides your show. We had DA, but I gave a list of every political party that we had on already. So I think the thing is, they don't know what this platform is about, man. They think that we're the same as the SABC and whatever. But this guy was he wasn't rude, and he said he enjoys these conversations, but this particular one rubbed him a bit the wrong way. But the thing is, you need to understand, the show is called the Roscoe Palm Show. So obviously it's your views. This is not the SABC where you have a program manager that's going to tell you what to say. The views is genuinely the views of Roscoe and myself, Nantel. So if I this and you might be affiliated with the ANC, I'm not. And that's why whenever I come here, I give you my humble opinion from a point of view of the ordinary man of this on the street, because I try to think because I am an ordinary man man of the street. And there's no agendas really. But if there is, and I'll tell you straight, hopefully the guy is listening, I don't like the DA. I'll make that public. I do not like them. And I will say that on here, and I don't have to worry about anybody thinking that I'm a bad person or whatever the case may be. But I will this platform will show that I don't like it. You know what I'm saying? So the SABC, you can't do that. But I must see my pass. It also said that's my pass radio station. But this is I'm the director of this. I'm the CEO of this platform. So obviously the same with your name is there. So obviously your point of view and your DNA will be on the show. And if you have a friend or whoever, it's obviously going to show whatever. So, but this person wants a disclaimer that we must put it on. That's never going to happen, man.
Yeah,
we can't have imagine every podcast you must say who's you're friends with this person,
like
or your relationship.
What I ate before I came here.
You know what I'm saying? So, but I appreciate this guy's comment because it came from he was a respectful man, and he says he likes the interviews, and it's a real interview, it's a real talk.
Yeah.
So it's not the comment didn't come from hate, but I think it gave us an opportunity to make clear what we are and who we are. You know what I'm saying?
And I think just to tie a ribbon around this, I've been very blessed in the sense that I've gotten to know people over a long period of time. The guy sitting opposite me, BAYDU Adams, I met him in the year 1999. I mean, this was 20s.
You guys are old.
A long time ago. I mean, I know Philip Dexter. Before he's any of those things, the person that I work with, he's my friend. I met Nazir Paulson in 2010 before the EFF thing. So I've been lucky in the sense that I've happened to run into people who either were influencers and change makers at the time or have become influencers and change makers at the time. So, hey, I keep rolling the dice. I keep rolling double
six. I'm glad we addressed it.
Yeah.
Because we would like to to give everybody a fair hearing, and he has the right to say and think what he wants to. And we addressed it, and that's that. And let's get back to the program.
Let's get to the no more side shows. Let's get to the main show. So, my friend from 1999.
Yes.
Ooh, man, BAYDU Adams, now an author. The book is titled "The Cruel and Beautiful."
Yes, sir.
World of Radio. Now let's start with it. The cruel and beautiful. Why is and beautiful like so small and it's like it's like sort of in the background. You can hardly. It says the cruel world of radio.
I think it's kind of obvious. It's got a lot to do with my experience over the years working in radio for 27 years. And the book, before people have a perception about it, it's not just about the radio industry being cruel. It is also about it being beautiful, but my stance or my angle comes from especially a freelance contractor, where you realize the world is cruel, or the radio world is cruel. But besides all of that, it's also like a bit of a manual where newbies or students of media can learn from. And what I'm trying to say is, these are the mistakes I've made, or these are the things that's happened to me. Try and avoid it this way. Try and use a shortcut. But it's obviously very intentional, the cruel world of radio, which it very much is. But it's also beautiful, like, in blue and small letters. And I think it's also just to get people's attention, obviously, to grab their attention. The thing about radio, in my opinion, is that everybody knows it's sexy, it's beautiful, it's a cool thing. You're famous and, sign autographs and take pics. But there's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't know of. Sorry that I'm a bit nasal, my sinus or something is acting up. But anyway, so I think just to give people the background into what radio and the radio industry is about, hence the name of the book, title of the book, yeah.
I mean, radio is not a job, really. I mean, I guess for the people who permanently employed, it's a job. But for the guys behind the mic, it's a vocation. It's a calling. So what called you to radio?
I talk about it a lot in the book. I was called to radio because I was poor. I had no other way to make money, and this was my option. I worked as a carpenter's assistant. I worked in the factory for many years, where I was retrenched many a times. I was on short time many a times. I worked on the building site, on the construction site, as what they call it, the Bokke, mixing daga and cement, etc. And when this opportunity came along, I took it. And it was needed at that stage of my life when I had nothing. And when I went in and did the interviews and they called me back and, they liked me and stuff, I realized that this is my future. This is where I belong. I've always been a creative person. At high school, I used to write comedy drama plays and 20-minute skits and stuff, and we used to act it out, and hence the connection with myself and Wayne McKay from the same school. And I think it was just an outlet, but more importantly for me, it was, this is it, which I talk about a lot in the book. So, lots of people have, as you were saying, it's their job, or it's their passion or whatever. It was all of that and more. But getting into it, for me, it was an escape. It was an escape from, the streets of the Cape Flats and doing what, not necessarily my friends, but what the community around me was doing, which was the gangsterism, the drugs, the crime, the teenage pregnancies, the alcohol, the abuse, and all those type of stuff. And it's taken me on a long journey. It's taken me on a 27-year journey, which I'm very grateful and very thankful for.
Yeah. You started at you were just a lighty in Mitchell's Plain, working on something, getting like a job, like a manual labor job. Like, what would make you think, first of all, to have the audacity to aspire to radio before you even took that first step, like that thought process that took you on that path?
Yeah. Look, there was while working in the factory, I used to always listen to radio. So even in the factory, I had headsets on, which was wrong because you're working with machinery and then you standing with it. What? But I remember listening, and I loved, even up until today, I flip channels all the time. You can never, I don't have a favorite or whatever. I flip channels all the time. It doesn't necessarily have to be a community or a commercial station. It's just a radio station, and I love the medium. I love the interaction. I love the sad bits, the funny bits, the competition moments, the songs, what the DJs have to say, expressing themselves. So that's always been my thing. And then I heard what I found out years later or months later, what's called a promo. Obviously promoting what's coming up. And one of the promos they had was, do you want to be a radio presenter, or do you want to work in radio, kind of a thing. And it was a community radio station in Ottery, which is obviously where I met you. So it was a station called C-Flat Radio. And that was the start. That was how I got into it. And the audacity was just like, this is me, this is it, and this is where I'm going to go.
What was that feeling the first time behind the mic at C-Flat? Like,
I remember very vividly, and he actually contacted me today. I didn't have his number. He contacted me via Facebook, Hilton Carlson. After we had our interviews with three of us, myself, Fatima, and a third guy whose name I got, Andile, I think his name was, had the interview, and when we were done, I think his name was Jeff, the owner of
Jeff Clenchman.
That's it. He said to us, I'm so glad none of you wanted to become DJs. Well, he said that you were there for the community, etc. And they took us around the station, and we ended up in the studio. And I remember Hilton saying, back then it was fax machines, by the way. Hilton says, "Who would like to read out these dedications?" And I knew in my heart of hearts, in that split second, I had to say yes. I took that jump because I've never done it before. I hate public speaking, blah, 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 blah. And I said, me. And he said, come there, stand over there, lift up the mic, put on the headphones. And that's what I did. And I started reading dedications. And Roscoe, the moment I left that studio, I knew this is where I need to be. This is where I have to be. And if you take back the steps back to where I was before, this for me was where I needed to be. Yeah.
You write about in the book, look, I'm a bit further than what I thought I was.
Okay.
The chapter 9, the title is Grab Any Opportunity Thrown at You and Make Them Aware That You're Available to Do Extra Things Around the Station. And that's pretty much how I've known you all this time. You hustle. You hustled hard.
Yeah.
And when I found you, you were pretty much like the finished product.
Yeah. I mean, when I eventually, because when I started off, obviously I was kind of helping out with smaller things around the station. Zwaipi Koli, for those who don't know, C-Flat Radio broadcasted on 89.5 from 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. Bush Radio, the oldest community radio station, took over from 2 p.m. until 2 a.m. So Koketso Satani used to start at 2 p.m. at Bush when we would finish, and we would do dedications between 1 and 2. And I did that for about a couple of weeks, and they called me in. They said, listen, there's a young man, Mark Figlin, I think his name was, who used to do sport on the breakfast show and produce the breakfast show. He's leaving. He's got a gig at one of the newspapers. Would I be interested? And of course I was interested, which obviously meant I had to get to work at 5:30 or 5 o'clock and even open up. And there was a presenter on air whose name was Kolisi, who many people later obviously heard on KFM and on the Heart or P4.
And then
ETV,
yeah,
on the sport and stuff. And I had to be his producer. And during that time, I had to start at 5 and I could leave at about 12. I left 5 o'clock almost every day.
I remember that, yeah.
Because I needed to grasp and I needed to learn about the industry. I needed to learn about music and news and all of those type of stuff. And I think that for me was my hustle. That for me was taking the opportunity. And the lesson here for not just people my age, but for younger people too, is do that. Nobody owes you nothing. You know, we also come from whether we want to, obviously whether we want to admit it or not, but we do come from a disadvantage. We were disadvantaged. So we have to work 10 times, 20 times, 30 times harder. We are 20, 30 years behind. We are 20, 30 steps behind. And the only way for you to get level or bigger than level is to prove to yourself, first of all, before anybody else, that you can do it. So learn as much as you can, get all the experience, get the knowledge so that you can empower yourself.
And that's what I appreciated from you. I mean, I was 18 years old at my first job, and you were there. Jason Wolf, you,
Militia Kelly,
all those guys.
Shelly Knipe,
Shelly. I remember how nervous I was, like reading out the fax machine. Because remember, I had to choose like which news I should be adding.
Yes, the news person. Yeah.
Yes. So the community radio station it's such a welcoming environment to learn in, because nobody will kind of hold information for themselves or like as it would maybe in commercial radio stations, the community radio station.
It's just on that, Roscoe, sorry to catch you, but I think I do talk about it in the book quite significantly. I think I target the community radio people more than commercial, because the commercial people know exactly where they are, where they were going, where they come from. But I've realized that a lot of community radio people have not been taught, have not been shown the way. So if you use my book as a guideline, hopefully that can improve stuff. Radio people, like when you get to my sort of, I want to say, experience after all these years, we don't listen to radio like most people listen to radio. We listen to radio differently. So, for example, I mean, I would necessarily, not necessarily listen to the music, I listen to what the DJ's got to say. And then this is me in the car. I would have, were you going with this? I'm talking to myself, because in my head I would have gone this way with that conversation. Why are you going that way? Or like, can you please stop talking? Or, do you know what I mean? Like, why did you cut that? That was a moment, that was something there. So, and I realized over the years that community people, no one's taught that. No one's taught community radio stations, this is how you do good radio. So they just go ahead and do their thing. So I think, just to kind of encapsulate it all, the book is very much targeted at everybody, but I think the community radio station guys will learn a lot, because not only did I work in community radio, I worked in commercial. I worked at 3 commercial stations, 2 of the biggest in Cape Town, plus I was at one of the most successful one in the Eastern Cape, and also we won the Station of the Year award. So yeah.
I will get to that, but before that, we have got ads to read. This episode is sponsored by The Cruel and Beautiful World of Radio by Baydu Adams. For your copy, you can email bayduadams@gmail.com or give him a bell at 072-112-8060.
Thank you.
How am I doing? How am I doing in the radio?
Not bad. I think there's too much of a radio voice there.
So let's explain. Okay, I wanted to deal with this because there's a radio voice and then there's how we talk, man.
Okay, so here's the thing. I look for that in between. Because if you're going to, hey, it's just gone 20 minutes after the hour, 8 o'clock, right here on now. No, because that's not how you speak. My pet peeve, it's just gone 58 minutes after the hour. No, it's 2 minutes to 10. It's not 58 minutes after the hour of 9. Roscoe, what's the time? It is 58 minutes after the hour of 9. You know what I mean? The way we speak, which is also what I tackle in the book, our accents, where we come from, But there's that in between. No one's going to listen to somebody who's as flat as they come. That's because you also need to respect the listener. But I'm also not a fan of the highly convoluted accents and the styles, and that sing-song thing that people tend to do when they talk on radio, because it's not natural. So when you do a read or when you speak to people, speak to me naturally, as long as you enunciate, as long as your words are round, and as long as your voice is welcoming. I want to just do an experiment, and I know people are watching, and I always talk to people about this. As a trainer, the important thing when you're on radio is to smile. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to read something. It says here, Arrested Development people every day, the first English record. Versus Arrested Development people every day, the first English record. Your voice is what attracts people. Your voice is what gets people to listen. I also mentioned in the book, when you are doing a traffic report, you need to command that respect. Because when I'm driving, when you're speaking, because I need to know, is Lake Road closed? Is there a pipe burst in St. George's Drive? Or must I go over Philip Kosana? Or whatever the case may be. And I think we work in a voice industry. And I think my entire life, I'll be the guy sitting which I think like, whoa. Whether it's a guy or a girl, when I hear that voice, like, wow, that's a good voice, Anyway, you're here within the listen.
No, but that's a good lesson. I mean, because people need to know that, because you can make use of that in everyday life. You can make use of that in job interviews, in being more engaging in conversations.
Yeah.
Bowling a can, whatever.
But you know what? Speaking about bowling a can, I think where and how we grew up, confidence is something that I realize. I've done many projects with especially youth, grade 11s. I like that age, 16, 17. Because you kind of, you're getting into becoming an adult and you've got choices to make, what you want to study, etc. And I realized very quickly that people, or the kids, or the youngsters, the youth from the Cape Flats and the townships are not as confident as, let's say, other demographics, or let's just call a spade, as white people, as the Caucasian people. And, a colored kid will be like, oh, where Roscoe, you don't look, I'm cool, now, lekker. Now, take Roscoe and put him with a bunch of kids who are Model C school kids, or I don't know what they call it nowadays, or they go to Sacks and Bishops, or whatever the case may be. You will not speak like that. And when you are there, you are just kind of withdrawn. Which is another thing I tackle in the book, is when are we going to stop being unapologetically us? As much as it's controversial for the radio person, we are almost never ourselves. I spoke to my ex-MD once. We drove. So Algoa FM was in GQ, about 4.5 hours down to
GQ. You can't say GQ. You must use the proper word now.
I've got nasal issues.
No, but
Gqerbeha.
Here we go.
But the nasal issues now is bothering me. So anyway, so about 4.5 hours down towards the Southern Cape, we owned that space, as in we broadcasted there. About 3 hours up towards East London, we broadcasted. We had a satellite studio in East London. They have a satellite studio. So we owned all of that space up until about 3 hours before you get to Bloem. And what we used to do is we used to talk a lot, because we would, for 3 hours or 4 hours, you got to talk stuff. And you don't talk about your mom and your daddy, you talk about the radio, because that's all you do, and we're always passionate about it. And we would dissect each and every radio presenter. And the topic came up of this one presenter that I'm very fond of, and he's a colored guy. And my ex-boss, said to me, it's such a pity he's not the same way with clients the way he is with the people, because he's a people's person. If you're looking for him, he's at an event, he's bending on the ground, talking to an auntie in a wheelchair. That was him. And then I said to him, I'm going to tell you something that no one's ever told you before. And for this conversation, he's a Caucasian guy. She was like, okay. So I said, we are never ourselves. We are absolutely never ourselves. We walk into a room, we have to assess the room. You can say whatever the hell you want, whenever you want, whether you are anti-ANC, anti-Zuma, pro-DA, whatever, you can do all of that. It's fine. The moment I open up my mouth and say something against what you believe or what your stance is, it becomes a problem. And then, like I always say, there's a target on your forehead. Now all of a sudden, my favorite words are, Baydu's becoming very vocal, eh? Screw you, you've been vocal all your life. That's all you ever do is you give us your opinion. But the moment I want to give my opinion, it becomes a problem. So, yeah.
I thought we weren't going for the...
We can go wherever you want to go.
I've got a comment from Yassine Baker. Tamara Snow, you can hear smiling. Does that?
Yeah. When you mentioned it,
Yeah.
when you read it out,
Yeah.
I envisioned Tamara,
yeah.
ex-colleague of mine. She is a beautiful person inside and out. But the way she does the news, whatever she does, it's a you can hear her smile. You can hear her smile. She's brilliant at what she does.
So-
She's on the drive show on Good Hope.
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
she's a very nice person.
Tamara was one of the very first interns we had at KFM in the newsroom. It was the first one was Noran, second one was Lance Witten, and I think Tamara was after that.
Lance is at the moment, he's the group editor of IOL. I think.
That's correct. Yeah. So I've known Lance for, we used to play cricket together. So I've known him for a while, and that's how I got to know Tamara. I messaged her like 2 years ago. So in the Eastern Cape, there's a town called Tamara, Tamara, and I know about 3 or 4 Tamaras. And whenever I drive past there, I was like, oh, Tamara, take photos, send it to me. And then one day, I heard this traffic report, and the reporter says Tamaga. So I'm like, huh? So I'm like, what is this place? No, it's called Tamaga. So I sent them all a voice note. I'm like, guys, your name is not Tamara, it's Tamaga. Anyway, but shout out to Tamara, doing a great job. Yeah.
Shout out to all the Tamaras.
Oh, to all the Tamagas. Tamaras.
Yeah. So then, look, I'm not going to go through the book because I think people should read it. They should email bayduadams@gmail.com or call him at 072-112-8060. The book launch on Saturday.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Sure. It was amazing. I know you didn't come, but it was absolutely beautiful. Everything that needed to happen happened. So I always envision things because I'm a creative person. In my head, I have an idea of what's going to happen. And it worked out exactly that. We had it at the Cullinan Hotel. Excuse me. And we had, I made it a dress-up theme almost, which was, I had about 70% complaints like, but bro, why do you want me to wear a suit?
It's an important. How many? If any of those people who complain about wearing a suit, tell them to write the book, and then demand that people pitch up in like Crocs and a t-shirt.
And the funny thing was, when we opened the doors, I was still in my tracksuit and my t-shirt, and it was like, no, dude, come on. I'm like, don't worry. Or I would go to them. I'm like, why are you wearing a suit? But anyway, so it was the Cullinan Hotel. Thanks so much to the Southern Sun for sponsoring me the venue. So obviously it was a beautiful venue. You rock up. Your name was on the your name was on the list. You come in. My friend Renee Soldier was playing the piano. She used to work with me at Prime Media. She was the PA to the station manager back then. And then so she was playing piano. There's canapes and drinks and everybody's dressed up. Blah blah blah. And then at 2:00 or after 2, we were running a bit late. We open the doors and you go into the venue and there's Sam Roy, DJ Haggy playing tunes. Bobby Brown was the MC. I had Sam do a speech. I had Mal Jones do a speech. She also worked with me at Old KFM with Nick Murray. Felicia Roman, who's my ex-MD, the first person of color to become the MD at the then KFM. I mean, even that in itself is another story, where it was just like, who are you, man? Like, what do you know about radio? And if you talk to her, you'll find that out. And she was like, I know who I am, and I'm the MD. She is a very strong person. I had my dad, which I thought was probably the best moment for me, which was very emotional because my dad is turning 84 this year, and I'm blessed to have both my parents. And I hired the guy in a suit, and in the beginning he was like, no, I'm like, trust me, I don't know. And then I'll flip all over the show. You would just tell me what I'm saying, what you need me to say. But anyway, so the next day I'm like, sure, but I'm gonna buy my dad like a shirt and a bow tie to go with the thing. And I go and I'm like, okay, I'm this size. I'm gonna buy him a medium. And I'm like, yeah, just very nice. So just fit this on. Like, yeah, whatever. And I go inside and I hear him say to my mom, oof, I'm actually a large. I'm like, don't do that now. So I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, no. I said, just fit it on. Yeah, but now I know already that it's going to fit. No, it's fine. I must have lost a bit of weight or whatever. So anyway, so my dad made the speech, and the funny part about the speech is he I told him weeks ago, and he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do something. And he made notes. And before the event started, he came panicked to me. He's like, I need a pen and a page. I'm like, for what? He's like, I can't find my speech. So he had a shortened version of his speech. But when he did it, and hearing your father say to you in front of 100 odd people, I'm proud of you, for me is just, you'll never be able to get that.
I heard they were chopping onions.
Everybody, he was so proud afterwards, like, oh no, this one asked to take a photo. This one says my suit looks nice. So I needed to honor the people who's been on the journey with me. Something I didn't realize, but somebody posted it's on social media that I didn't, and I actually purposefully did it. I didn't get big name artists, and I know them all. I had Fakhri was one of them, and Al was kind of in that level. But I found a couple from TikTok, and they are brother and sister, and they are homeless. And I saw this video. Luckily for me, I've got 2 people on my Facebook who deal with homeless people. They got into contact with them. I got hold of them. And at that stage, they were staying at the Backpackers. There was another lady who couldn't make it. Unfortunately, she was so sad because she was so excited. I heard her also on TikTok, made contact, got a manager's number. And then about 2 days, like, Mr. Adams, she's got a throat infection, but we're going to see how it goes. And I said to him, dude, I'll give you until like Saturday, 11 o'clock, no rush. And eventually she said, like, I can't, But it was another up-and-coming person. And then there's a young guy who's talented. I won't say he's up-and-coming. Excuse me. His name was Mansoor Joseph. So singer, guitarist. It was just absolutely beautiful, And then obviously the big guy, Fakhri Isaacs, towards the end. So the whole event was just glitz and glamour. It was beautiful. It worked out the way I wanted it to work out. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you, when you decided to, I'm going to write a book now, how long did it take you from thinking this is a mad idea to, actually, I'm halfway through writing it?
There's a gentleman called Vernon Joshua whom I acknowledged in my speech. And he was a Facebook friend. He's an elderly gentleman. I say elderly because he's retired. And so people always commenting on his stuff. And then one day in GQ, it was the 7th still back then. And one of his best friends is Thurlow Wakefield. Or Thurlow Wakefield was the head of Western Province back then. And he's like, hey, Baydu, and we had this conversation, And then we connected, and every now and then he would always support me with my clothing company. I would try and support him where I can, or I'll push his business, or whatever the case may be. So he asked me the other day, how long did this take? And I gave him the day, I think it was about 8 to 10 months. And he said to me, that is actually very short, because normally it takes 18 months upwards to write a book. But what I did was, Roscoe, and this is the advice to anybody, and please just do this, write a book, write statuses, make videos, put anything about the Cape Flats, put it all over the show. And when I started it was just everything that came to my head. The way the book is set out, it's only afterwards where I'm like, this fits there, that fits there. Do I add this? No, I shouldn't. Do I leave this out? And I ended up putting almost everything in there that I needed to talk about. So a lot of it is my experience, my stories, but there's also advice and my opinions. Yeah.
Because what it set out, you asked a number of the people that you work with, you asked them 3 key questions. I'm trying to find, what is a good thing about radio or positive moment in radio that you recall? The second one is a bad thing about our cutthroat industry, and what is your best piece of advice for a newbie? So who are the industry leaders that you've asked to answer these 3 questions in the book?
Some of them I just contacted out of the blue. Clarence, from memory, Clarence Ford was one of them, which I obviously worked with. There was Lee Downs, Vanessa Marawa, Robert Marawa, Solly Philander, a guy called Kenny Masley, Kick-Ass Kenny, from back in the day in Metro, Ishmael Abrams was also in Metro. So there were also big names. Patko Mafani, who's a legend, still up until today. If you listen to Mshlobo and he's been on the breakfast show, they call him Butiza. So Butiza has been there for years. He left. They were going to start another radio station in East London. It didn't happen, and apparently he's back at Mshlobo. So Irma G was another one. So there was a couple of people I worked with. Some I didn't, and you'll see that a lot of their answers, there's a similarity in certain cases where it just goes like, do you know what? We love the industry, but do you know what? This is cool. If only this could change. And I think we all agree. When you are a freelance contractor, and I write the book a lot supporting the freelance contractors, I am taking on the system, and we'll probably talk about that. I am taking on the system in the sense that I just want to acknowledge that I think there's a problem there. I think we've been doing this for 40 odd years. I think that we can change stuff. And I can break it down when you eventually ask me, but that is kind of what I did. And just a side note, I don't know if you know the name Wilson B. Nkosi.
Yes.
So I was trying to get hold of Glenn Lewis. He follows me on Twitter. He never replied. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, Wilson B. Nkosi. So I asked one of my radio friends who used to work at Metro, please tell Wilson I would love, this is the structure, there's 3 questions I want to answer, blah, 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 whatever. He sends me the reply. And the reply says, and it was one of my proud moments, Roscoe. The reply says, I've never met Baydu, but I've heard a lot about him. I mean, this is Wilson being Kolisi, guys. Do you know what I mean? So it's again, in the book, I talk about your brand and how important your brand is. It's not about bragging rights or anything. It's just, it makes me feel good.
Yes.
That your name is being mentioned around the circles like people as Wilson being Kolisi. So, yeah.
And that's what I like about the book. I haven't finished it yet, of course. I only got it on Saturday. So, I had hoped to have finished it before now, but, I will definitely finish it in the next few days. It's not just a story of your journey through radio. It's pieces of advice and like industry insights. If somebody could follow your path, what to do, what not to do, and also the context of the industry. But now I want to return to the story. And you obviously, I want people to read the book. So at any stage you say, listen, it's in the book. I don't want to talk about that. And you can just say that because you became one of the most popular breakfast jocks in the Western Cape at after you left community radio station. How did that happen? You won the lotto, basically.
I've never been a breakfast show jock. I was always a sidekick. So I was a breakfast show jock at community radio, but in commercial I was a sidekick. And I quickly realized that I am a sidekick guy.
What is that? Okay, so how is this sort of team structured? What is the configuration of sidekick, main guy? What?
You know what I realized over the years with the breakfast show, and I talk about it in the book, is that you almost need different personalities. And if it was the 3 of us, let's, for example, say Nantle's the older guy who's been married and he's got 3 kids and he's a businessman. I'm just an example, dude. I'm just an example, dude. Right? You're the younger guy. You're the party guy. And it's an example, Roscoe. Just calm down. Calm down. I'm the female, sidekick. I'm the one that talks about women issues. You guys talk about, oh, she's hot. And I'm like, no, but she's also smart. So every breakfast show, in my opinion, needs that. I've heard a million stories, and one of it was like when I wasn't hot, and that shut up my profile. I was a producer, but I talked cuck like all the time. But it was a balance of talking nonsense and also talking about serious stuff. So if we were discussing a 2-year-old girl being raped, I could give my opinion and people would listen. Mm-hmm. If we are just, and that's why I say I'm a good sidekick. I play of words, double entendres, and all of those type of stuff. So one of the things I remember, Lee Downs back announced the song, and the guy's name was Gerald Amin, and he said that was Gerald Amin, and I love you, whatever, and then his father is Idi, and he was like, what? And Jeremy had to start laughing. It's like, don't you get it? Idi Amin, and it's like, so the reaction on air was either, this guy, shut up, or they would burst out laughing, or they would okay, anyway, and then go on, and that worked. So the dynamic of a breakfast show for me is all of that. People tend to choose a side. One lady says to me once, do you know when you start talking, we pull over to the side of the road to listen to you talk nonsense? And I was like, why? But that is just what the character was. That was what the persona was. And breakfast shows should be anything, the balance from serious talk, community issues, and just making gat. People just want to laugh. People just want to have fun. but you need to find the balance. I always talk about the balance because at one stage, Lee Downs' daughter was driving with her teacher to school. And she said to the teacher, why don't you tune into like art? And the teacher said, that's too immature for me. And then we realized, okay, let's just calm down on the jokes a bit. We can do it, but let's just find the balance. So a breakfast show needs to be balanced. It needs to have everybody's got a bit of a role to play, and it's got to fit. It has to fit. And trust me, there's going to be issues and there's problems, but you need to iron out those issues and problems. It's going to happen, which is what I talk about in the book. But it's going to happen, and it needs to happen, and then you iron it out, and then you're going to be okay. To the point, and this is what happened. This is what's so sad that they broke up our breakfast show at Heart, because we were at that point where it was just, we were having fun. We were like the three of us just chilling and chatting, and there's a braai in the background, and Baydu, you want a Coke or a coffee? I get a coffee, please. And I'm just talking nonsense, or we're talking about things that's happening in the world, and that's what I think a breakfast show should be.
So who were you competing against? Who was that breakfast
Back
show?
then,
Yeah.
Nigel Pearce.
He was still on Gqerbeha
On
FM.
Gqerbeha, yeah. And who was breakfast at KFM? It was before Wackhead, so it must have been Ryan. Could have been Ryan O'Connor.
And
yeah.
how did you stack up against them?
We did very well. I think at one stage we were very close to KFM. Had the biggest breakfast show at that stage. We were very close to KFM. Off the record. I say off the record, but it's on camera.
It's on there. You can't be off the record. Yeah.
There was talks that Gqerbeha FM wanted our entire breakfast show to move over to Gqerbeha. And it's a pity it never happened. I don't know what the reason was. And that wasn't my discussions. That was obviously people that spoke to Lee or whatever. But that would have been just amazing for us to be challenged to go to a new radio station that started as an entirely breakfast show and take on, what we started there, and now we're taking those people with us. So just to prove to yourself that, you know what, you've actually got clout and you actually got the pull. So, yeah.
So the team is doing so well. If Heart is doing exceeding expectations, am I right to characterize it?
Yeah.
Why did they break the team up?
It's a question that I don't have the answer to. It was, we were told, off the record, we were told at one stage that our program manager and the MD went to Joburg. So we were told they're going to a conference and whatever. And then somebody from another radio station came to Lee and said, dude, they're not there for a conference. Lee Downs.
Lee Downs.
Sorry, Lee Downs. They said, dude, they are not there for a conference or a meeting or whatever. So he's like, oh, what do you mean? He's like, they are there to sign Fat Joe. At that moment, we all went, Fat Joe is a breakfast show jock. Are they going to give him an afternoon drive? What's going to happen? And very soon it became public. We were told, we were informed, and they decided I think back then it was Sarah and Paul Snodgrass, rest in peace. Yeah. And Lee Downs, and they moved the three of them to the afternoon drive. They gave Clarence 12 to 3. Clarence used to do afternoon drive with Julian Aidu and Tafts. And was it Tafuma? I think it was Tafts, yeah. And then they moved, no, it was Nick Feinberg. So they moved Nick Feinberg and Julian to the breakfast show with Fat Joe, and I was to be the producer.
Okay.
And that is the thing, and one of the presenters I've spoken to says to me always like, I don't understand why they would do stuff like that. That's just my example. But when their shows are doing well, why are you breaking up my show? Why are you moving me to a dumbed down slot? I like to call it, or a late night or early morning slot when I was doing so well. I mean, there were stations where friends of mine was doing better than the breakfast show, and their show was like at night or in the afternoon, which is almost unheard of. And then they were, no, we're going to move stuff around. So radio is very much a gamble. I'm speaking too much now about this, but radio is very much a gamble, and you have to move things around, and you have to move with times, and you need to move in a certain direction. But like someone said it was Tafuma who said at my launch, he said it's also, I can't remember the correct word, but it's almost like it's your opinion of what you think it should be. If you know what, so you as the program manager, I don't think Roscoe's going to work because I don't like his voice and I take him out. But I like Nantle's voice. Meanwhile, the other guy doesn't like Nantle, but he likes you.
So it's political, basically.
Oh, subjective.
Subjective,
yeah. If you feel like, and that I think is one of the problems. I say problems, but that's one of the things with radio. You also, everything is a gamble. So you need to know when to stop and when to start. You need to know when to change things. Because if you don't know that, you're going to run into trouble. And my final point on this is, if you are 25 years old, so call it 30 years, you're 30 years old, you're broadcasting to Gqerbeha FM's audience, who start at about 14, 15, 16. That's their starting age, more or less, the youth. 25 years later, you are 55. You cannot be talking to 15, 16, 17-year-olds when you are 55. So you have to move. You have to go into a later slot. You have to go into another station. For those who don't know, if you look at Gqerbeha, it's a youth station, but if you look at Heart, it's an adult station. And lots of us, and many of us who used to listen to Gqerbeha, is now listening to Heart, because they are playing the songs that we grew up with while listening to Gqerbeha. Yeah.
Conveyor belt, basically.
Basically, yeah.
I'm going to talk about the labor issues first, but I really have to plug this. Baydu, get his book 072-112-8060 or bayduadams@gmail.com. Nantal, you were going to say something?
I just wanted to add what you just mentioned now, growing older. I think they recruit like that as well.
Yeah.
Because they took a lot of a lot of groups, DJs, playing DJs as well.
Yes.
And the talent, the producers and that. Yeah. We mentioned DJ Willie early on. So you can see the progression and why they would do it.
Exactly.
Because I had a conversation with Willie actually, and I asked him, dude, how does it? Don't you get now that you're older, you can't play for that young crowd anymore, man.
Yeah.
So he was like, luckily for him, the radio station that is now is for older people. So he gets to play the music that in that niche where it's still dope, but they introduce new songs.
Yeah.
But it's still, the youth will still like it.
Exactly.
And the older people will also like it. So
Yeah.
So 100% what you're saying.
But you know what? What I've realized also is that today's music is shit. I mean, let's be honest. So when you go into, and I went a couple of months ago, a friend dragged me to do club hopping because he knows all the people. And we went. And almost every club we went into, they were playing my music. And these kids are 19, 20, 24 years old. So they are playing the Robin S's and they are playing the
Soul for Real.
Or like a remix.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about the remix that you will hear on the radio today.
Like
I'm talking about the original Steve Silk-Hurley type of stuff, And they knew all the words. They know the Dr. Dre and Snoop old stuff. And I think it's because I always say today's music is shit. And when I was a program manager at Algoa FM, I quickly realized stuff with radio. So just to backtrack, when I worked at a station, there was always complaints, are you playing the same old music over and over, which is normal in radio stations. For those who don't know, we do lots of research around music. We spend a hell of a lot of money on music research. The research comes back, we take those songs, we play it. But when I went to Algoa, I went to the Eastern Cape, I said to myself, no, this is going to stop. So when a new song comes along, irrespective, let's say Justin Bieber did very well for us. Justin's got a new song and it's shit. I'm not going to play it. Yeah, but everybody else is playing. I don't care if everybody else is playing it. Because my thing is, if it's a new song, you either got to feel it. It's like, this guy broke my heart. I'm in love with this woman. Or the beat is lekker, or you can sing along to the chorus.
But how much do you rely on your music committee?
A lot. You rely a lot, and the committee relies on the research. So I was part of that committee. So what happens is you spend, like I was saying, a lot of money. I can give you an example because we did it both, and I don't know so much about the music because I wasn't involved, but I was involved as programming at KFM and then obviously at Algoa. So KFM would have ladies come in every day from I think 4 p.m. So they would start 5 to about 7, and they would cold call people every day. Or Monday to Thursday. And they would phone people. So here's how it would work. Hi, we're an independent company. We'd like to blah, 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 blah. What's your favorite radio station? So let's say they are now working for KFM and they say, Smile. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. Boom. You keep on phoning until someone says, KFM. Okay. Now you say, listen, I've got a couple of snippets of songs. Would you mind listening to it? And they're not going to say no because they're like, I've got an influence in the music now. So then, like it, love it, hate it, used to like it, don't love it, and we would play 7 seconds of songs. So now you make notes and you tick, and that used to happen every day. That's one thing. Similar thing is called auditorium research. So you get, I think we had 100 women or 5, I think it was about 100 women over 2 nights. Similar thing. You play snippets, there's a word, I can't remember the word now, but 7 seconds or 8 seconds or whatever of a song, every woman. So, that's that song. Like it, love it, hate it, blah, 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 whatever. You collate all that information and you put it together. Then you do other types of things where you sit with people and you chat, what's your favorite song? Or you do it online. So you're constantly doing that research. Plus there's other research being done. That's it, yeah. And you collate the info and you go like, oh, okay, cool. So I say sad thing, but the sad thing about that is a lot of slow songs tends to go to the top. Especially if in most cases, if your researchers or the people who are being researched are women. So the Whitney Houstons and the Celine Dions or whatever. But it's up to you to then go like, we can't be playing all Celine songs. So we're going to take these 3 big ones and we're going to disperse it and put it all over the show compared to, in comparison to all the other songs. Yeah.
No, I mean, I remember back how we did it in C flat when we used to get all the CDs from the record companies, and it was amazing because I remember Aisha Bihardin, like she'd listen to the song, she listened to Mambo Number 5, like, and she go like, this is gonna be the biggest song of the year.
Yeah.
And like just from 16 bars, it's like, and she was right.
And she was right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that again, Roscoe, is about feeling a song. Another thing that I failed to mention about music at some stage, and I can't remember top of me, life of me now, a song. But at one stage, 4 or 5 years ago, the song's chorus, there was no chorus. It was a beat. Was it that girl? That was twerking, man.
Which one?
She was the user to twerk. Like, maybe you must Google it for me. There was No. It was like a Fontana, and I'm like, anyway.
Yeah. That's Miley Cyrus.
No, it wasn't Miley. It was another girl. But anyway, that song, again, when it came to the chorus, it was a beat being played. So you can dance to the beat or whatever. It wasn't singing. I can't sing along with the chorus.
Yeah.
I can't feel emotional with the chorus.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway.
I've noticed something else, like of late.
It wasn't Miley though. It was someone else.
There's two phenomena that's happening, and I think number one, like you said, the old school stuff. Even New Jack Swing is back, like not in remixed or reshaped. It's like in the form that it came into the world at the time. The other thing I'm noticing, bridges are disappearing from songs.
Exactly.
So you have like a
boom into it, Suma.
First chorus,
Yeah.
and that's it. And then just play with the different dynamics.
Yeah.
There's no.
Yeah.
There's 2.5 minutes. It's TikTok is influencing everything.
Yeah, and here's the thing about TikTok though. I mean, it's when you look at a TikTok video, oh, it's quite cool. But you look at, you think to yourself, that's just 12 seconds. It's cool for 12 seconds or 18 seconds or 5 seconds. Then what?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's very seldom when you hear a song when you go like, well, this is a hit, this is what we're going to do. I mean, there are a couple of big ones that comes from TikTok that they use. And this is also why we spoke about the older music earlier. This is also why a lot of kids, they would play songs for their parents. I'm like, and their mom would sing along and I'm like, how do you know the song?
Yeah.
Because it's an old song.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So
that happened to me with Candy Rain the other day.
Is
it's
it?
like, I'm 17-year-old. Singing, it's like, my love. And I'm like coming up with a,
and you sing it along.
Like, how do you know that? How do you know TikTok song? It's like, well, that song was, you don't know soul for real. Okay, so then from 104.9, from heart, like I don't want to give away everything in the book.
Sure.
Also, I haven't got to that part.
So, that's honest at least.
Yeah. It's like, those guys who do the book reviews, they say like, oh, I found your book was captivating. And so
I didn't read it.
Like, maybe, I don't know. The issue that I really want to talk about is the precarity of job security in the radio industry, because you can be flying high the one moment and on the next moment you literally don't have a job. Yeah. If you would advise somebody to get a job in radio, you would probably, for security, you would advise him to be the guy to put up the feather banners and see to the admin rather than be a jock.
And I was the example of that because at one stage, so an unfortunate thing happened when I worked at KFM, and I mean, obviously it's okay now, but a friend of mine was in an accident, Raul. It happened in Grassy Park, whatever, and he was out for 10 months. So it was a very big accident. It was after 10 months. And because I had so much experience and I worked in all these departments, I became his backup. And what Raul did, he was what we call a traffic controller, not traffic as in, but traffic as in ad scheduling. So the adverts go out, which makes your money, station's money. Back then you need to download the 30-second ad and you've got to put it in. Then you've got to make sure a Vodacom ad doesn't follow an MTN ad. It's not Roscoe's voice first and the second ad is also Roscoe's voice or whatever. You've got to get the dates right, and that's kind of what an ad traffic guy does. And I kind of did all of that, and I realized that this is kind of okay as opposed to a DJ. And I was fortunate that I did it for about 10 months, both working Saturday and Sunday early morning, and then Monday through to Friday. So Monday to Friday, especially a Friday, would end at 7 or 8 o'clock because I wasn't as cool and as fast as Raul. And then I had to be back at like 1:30 or 2:30 for my 3. So I would just go home and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and then when they called me in, my MD and the program manager, and they sat me down and they said, listen, we'd like to offer you the post as the programming manager's assistant. I said, yes. Immediately I said, yes. And they were like, okay. And are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And then actually I lie. My exact words was, I've already made up my mind. Are you sure? No. Because I knew when you get a permanent job, you get the medical aid, you get the UIF, you get the Provident Fund and all of those type of stuff. And we can talk about it now, but like the freelance contractor doesn't get any of that.
A freelance contractor is basically anyone that's on air.
Yes.
Okay. So what are the differences between, obviously we understand permanent job, but what is the typical contractual situation of an on-air talent?
It varies. And this is the cool thing as a program manager. I mean, I've found all these things out. We can, contract this man for 1 month and we can contract you for 2 years. He can have 3 extra free days off in his contract. You don't. So that's the kind of thing. But contract can be 1 month, contract can be 4, 5, 3 years, whatever the case may be, if it's a big name and they know it's going to do good for the station. So contract negotiations come up. And then you go, listen, we'd like to offer you breakfast. Are you still keen or whatever? Because remember, if you're talking about the big boys now, let's call it 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. They are probably going to get other offers. They are probably going to be looking for other offers because they've now built up their, who they are. But the contract for a freelance contractor basically means that the station can swap you or take you out or let you go or give you a better slot or give you a worse slot. And that, I think, is the reason why they do it. I do talk about it in the book. I talk about it extensively because for me, it's a sore point almost that it still happens. And you always see, like the Fuma said on Saturday, some DJs get meltdowns and they go all over Facebook. And it's the truth because it's an ego-driven industry. Wherever you walk, you got to take a photo. They like you on Facebook and they follow your page and you're at the club and they're there and whatever. Now all of a sudden we like to say fired. You're fired. They don't renew your contract. Now what? I've got bills to pay. I've got, my kids are in varsity, whatever the case may be. I've got my car, my house, the bond. Now I've got nothing. So what I'm trying to say in this book is don't make radio your only source of income. That was one of my mistakes and my problems. Because I came from poverty, it was my only way out. That was the only thing I had. But if you are clever, you would study and you would get a proper job, and then go into radio, do voiceovers or whatever, and then go to community station or whatever, and then do a weekend slot or do an early in the morning slot or late at night or an evening show. And when they go like, listen, Baydu, we actually want to give you Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 12. And you go like, how much money? You can compare, well, I earn X amount. Yeah, it's actually better if I do this for at least a year and then take that contract. So that is fundamentally the difference between a radio person who's normally a contract worker and there's the permanent staff member who's a permanent staff member and gets all the benefits. They can get sick leave and maternity leave and all those type of stuff. I must also just add, there are some radio stations that actually give you all of those extra things. But again, it's a contract, so it can be negotiated.
Okay, I'm going to come to you now, Nantel. But I just wanted to make it clear that when somebody says, well, if you are offered a 3-year contract or a 1-year contract, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to see out the full terms of the 3 years contract because there are so little protections in that contract that you can basically be let go at a moment's notice. We're going to come back to that one. I think Nando,
that is actually my gripe with my experience in radio as well, commercial radio. Was the contract? It was the. I can't wrap my head around how you can make money out of people and give them that type of contract, man. And especially look. Let me add this before I go into my disclaimer. Anything that I'm going to say that might sound anti-SABC, I'm not referring to the people that work there. I worked with wonderful people. Yeah. Grant Lesh, all the people. Yeah. The station manager that's passed away a couple of years ago, lovely people. But when
Brendan Fix. Huh?
Brendan Fix, yeah. Awesome guy. So my gripe is the institution that I'm talking about, not the people. So my thing is, how can you make money and charge for ads and stuff, but the people that's doing the job is not getting proper contracts? And how can you be a SOE and you government, right? And you're supposed to uphold labor laws, but your contract is designed to bypass labor laws. It's just and the weird thing is that I'm gonna just actually mention names now. There was a time when I was working there. We had to what's the word now? We had to make sure you had to tell them what you do and fill in like so that they can say if you really a freelancer, man, basically.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like and Nigel Pierce was there and he said you guys know what they're doing now, eh? And nobody realized. They're actually making it so that they have on paper to say that nobody knows that he's a freelancer. Like there was one thing: do you use your own equipment or do you use theirs? So that would be like luckily my wife is a HR director, so she knows about labor laws, and she was like, no, but you use their stuff. So in the labor law, if you use
permanent,
then if you use their equipment, then you're actually permanent.
Yeah.
So the people that I wouldn't say me, but I would say that contract that they gave out is actually permanent jobs. You know what I'm saying? And how they get away with that
protections,
shit.
Yeah.
But you got none of the protections, dude. And the freedom of speech also, I don't know, they say they can basically terminate the contract if you do something on your private thing, whatever, on your private socials. That's the reason why I left actually before the hearing could actually come to an end. I just figured, nah, this isn't worth it. Let me just spot. But yeah, so just getting back to your point where you say if you want to get into radio, just know that it's a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
It's because the thing is, when I came in, I saw a lot of people. I freelanced I was actually doing it for free, actually, DJing, decks wise, and I could see a lot of people, a lot of disgruntled workers, like any other job, and I was like, yeah, but you guys are then doing what everybody would love to do.
It's an amazing job.
You know what I'm saying? But then I realized, but the conditions isn't that good.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And the security and all that. And then I realized, look here, if you go in here, muni temba op dini, soos hulle sê, muni vasmaak hier nie. So I just I took words from a rap song, Wu-Tang, milk that cow the best way you know how. And that's how I went in there. I just saw what I can get. And I obviously delivered according to my contract, but I was never, I tried to keep the power within me, man. Where I could say, I can walk away from this now. Fuck this shit.
And that everything you've mentioned is kind of what is my gripe. When you have, and yes, it's maybe subjective, and yes, there's a million opinions about it, but at the end of the day, these people, that, like I write in the book, they don't know the auntie who's cupping in the penalty at the back for the banner to stand up. They know you as the presenter. I had a guy, I know him, is a very good friend of mine, and he does amazing work in Manenberg. And he stood up when we asked the questions, and he couldn't believe what he heard. And in his way, he says, I don't believe you guys are allowing this shit to happen. You guys are big names, and you are the reason why we listen to you. And because this room was full of obviously radio legends, on Saturday. And why are you? So I'm not attacking people personally. It's all my experience, like it was your experience when you were at the SABC. I'm taking on the system. I'm not taking on the system. I'm alerting people to the system. And I'm like, is there not another way to do this? You've got somebody who's got a little operation, which means they're going to be out for 2 weeks. And they are out for 2 weeks. And what does that mean? You don't get paid. So if you don't come to work, you don't get paid.
Yeah, no work,
so
no
now
pay.
you don't, no work, no pay. And you've got to pay the hospital a couple of $100,000 or whatever the case. It doesn't make logical sense.
With no hospital plan.
With no hospital plan.
And it's this. I remember a meeting that we had also where they tried to explain to us. Now they actually wanted to hear gripes. So it was all the SABC employees, like freelancers, had a meeting, and then it was SABC. So there was TV people also, like from Joburg, from Durban, and we always was on a conference. And the TV people, dude, they were like, "Yo, dude, we work on this show and this show and this show. We give in hours and hours of overtime and stuff like that. That they don't, okay, you can't get paid because obviously your contract. But they would say, I can't even buy like a car. I can't buy a car. I can't.
Because you can't show the bank.
Live.
You can't show the bank that you got a permanent job.
And they were like, can't we do something that benefits not just you guys, man?
Yeah.
And it was one of those conversations where you could see the second floor. They wouldn't totally understand because they're permanent, man. You know what I'm saying? It's. I hope for the industry. I'm not a part of that industry anymore.
Yeah.
But I hope for the people that still want to enter that industry, that it's fixed somehow so that it can be a better person, a better experience for the people going in. The bright-eyed lighty. Oh, I want to be like Nigel Pearce, but you don't know what Nigel Pearce had to smile and give that voice. Meanwhile, you worried about shit. I hope I can have this job. Like chicken when it comes to here. Just before April.
Contract negotiations. You panicked.
Visual panic diamonds.
How does that work? So what happens?
So and for example, SABC, I know it's 1st of April, if I'm correct, right? So
April Fool's Day.
So by March, you start to panic because you don't know, are they going to give me my same show? Are they going to give me a better show with more cash? Are they going to give me a worse show at 3 a.m. in the morning or 12 midnight? Or are they going to say, thank you very much, that's it? And you start to panic, and that's how it is.
How much notice do you get generally about the changes?
It again depends on what your contract says, but I mean, it's very seldom where people are going to tell you 3 months ahead of time. It normally would be a month. But if they, for example, and again, it's a blanket statement. It's not all the radio stations, etc. So shouldn't put that disclaimer out there. But if Roscoe is a very militant type of person, is a very outspoken type of person.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Exactly. That's why I used you as an example. Then I can maybe say, listen, man, there's 2 weeks to go, or let's call it, there's a month to go before contract negotiations. We're not going to renew your contract. We can actually pay you for a month and 2 weeks after that. Thank you very much. Your last show was on Friday.
So that's how it works. You at any stage, regardless of whether you have a contract or not, they can just
Again, it depends on what happened or what is it. Because I mean, I'm painting. It sounds like I'm painting a picture that all radio presenters are angels, which they're not.
Sure.
I mean, people farm on kak and they do stuff. But if there is something in your contract, and this is where it becomes tricky. This is what I've learned. If there is something in your contract that says you have to go, I'm going to hop on that. Let's call it 3.7.2. So I don't care who you are, what you've done, but either I need you to go because of the changes we are developing, because you are becoming a bit of a problem, because you're dropping listeners, because your show's not doing that well, people don't like your voice, whatever excuse I want to say. I can then go back to your contract and says, yeah, but you're wearing a blue top and I told you to wear a red top, but whatever the contract is. And then I can let you go. So the contract will always be there, but it's the clauses within the contract that says. It's something you mentioned earlier, and a lot of legal people would say to you that a binding contract like that is actually not what's the word, like not as rigid, because if you are using the equipment, the Constitution says blah, blah, blah. If you are you using the equipment? Are you working this time? Are you using the internet? Are you technically makes you a permanent staff member. So there's a very thin line where that is concerned. I'm not here to attack that. I'm here to say, to alert everybody to it and go like, can we not come up with a better solution? You, Nantel mentioned earlier, disgruntled. There are so many disgruntled people who leave a radio station, go to the next one and want to show that other radio station. Now you're going to see, because now why? Why can't you just be like, you know what, I had a lovely time at Hot. It's now my time to go to Smile FM, and I'm happy at Smile FM. You know what, I had a lovely time at Smile, I'm going to KFM. Do you know what I mean? So it almost, I was telling somebody yesterday, excuse me, when I left KFM, sorry, when I left KFM, which is also a dubious type of stuff, all of a sudden the staff of my friends weren't my friends anymore. And that hurt. And we went to a club and there was about 8-10 of them around me, and one person came up to hug me. And the rest all my friends. We worked together, we were chummies. And I just went, wow.
Blood in, blood out.
And it's what it does to you. And I talk about this, a classic example in the book that you can read about where, you know, people are friends and all of a sudden they're not friends anymore because of what the system has done. So, yeah.
Nigel Pierce actually spoke about it when he left also on his Instagram page. The thing is, what I would like them to do, man, I would like them to realize that colours do not have a lot of people that they can look up to, man. You know what I'm saying? In the public eye. And I would like that the radio stations to just keep that in mind next time you treat people like cuck, man, when they leave. When you treat people like Nigel Pierce like the way you did. That was fucking uncalled for, man. That man gave you years of his life, man, and he was on top form, man. He's one of the best. He is actually the best for me personally, man. And the way they treated him before he couldn't even say a proper goodbye, man. You know what I'm saying? The same thing they did, the Heart FM did to Clarence Ford. That's our heroes, man. And we need to hold these people at bay, man, and say, as jy weer hy gaan doen met ons mense, we're not going to listen to you guys. We're not going to spend our dollar, whatever. Want dis wat waar ze willen gaan seermaak, man. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think it's wrong, man. I think have respect, man. Because while that bra was there making money for you, reading out the ads, making sure, you know what I'm saying, reading material to educate himself so that he can educate the viewers, dan is die man goed, man. But the minute you have a personal problem with the bra, whatever the case may be, then you throw him out like a dirty rag, man. And that part for me, I hate that part of radio, dude. And that's why I call it legacy radio. And part of this whole platform is, ek praat baie negative van it. But I had a brilliant experience at Gqerbeha FM. It was at the SABC. It was brilliant friends that I made, work colleagues and whatever, and it was a nice creative hub. But that contract stuff, my bro, it's an ugly thing, my bro.
And part of the problem with like there being no protections is that they can put a contract in front of you that's clearly not compliant with any sort of labor law. But if you go to like the CCMA, whatever, you become radioactive to your next employer because it's a very small pond. You can go from KFM to 104.9 to Algoa, whatever the case. But if Algoa heard that you took KFM to court, they're not going to hire you. Yeah. So there's like an omerta, like a fearful silence around among the entire industry of jocks or actually exploited talent, really. And you see that the strike in America, the Writers Guild strike, the Actors Guild, the Screen Actors in striking in solidarity. Do you think it's time for some sort of organization of jocks and freelancers in the radio industry to just sort of stop these exploitative practices?
Look, you mentioned something earlier, and I'm not too sure if it's correct or not, but when you said about them putting things into contract which shouldn't, obviously they've done their research, and obviously, to my understanding, a contract would be the correct way to go. It would be the correct content, the correct wording and whatever. Granted, it's probably skewed, slanted, as most employers. Somebody said the other day, there was a meme that I read that said, an HR manager is not there to protect you, an HR manager is there to protect your company. And that's just the reality of life and of work. I do think it's time for something like that to happen. How it's going to happen, I don't have the answer. What I wanted to do with this book, besides telling my story and teaching others, whatever, was to just alert people, because I know for a fact there's going to be hundreds of radio people going, exactly, and nodding their head, because they know what it's about. I'm not going of any secrets. It's just not been put out in public that much, because it's such a sexy industry. It's a beautiful industry. I love radio. I still am in love with the medium, and as you can tell, it's creative, and you can have lots of fun with it, and you can, I love the term theatre of the mind, because you are playing with people's minds, and you can say like, oh, Roscoe and I are sitting here, in our, with his, Barbie outfit in the pink, and he's wearing this bunny slippers, and dude, why are you wearing a bow tie? And automatically your mind goes, this is what Roscoe is wearing, and he's not. So all of that is beautiful. It's immediate. You're talking, Bobby made Bobby or Sam on Saturday said something which we've always learned, is that you are not talking to a bunch of people. You're talking to one person. So, hey, you guys,
the listener. I also, that was something that came from C Flat as well.
Hey, you guys
you
out
at
there,
home, an individual.
You're talking to one person. So when the person's in the shower, in the car, in the house, forecourt, at the garage, in the mall, I'm talking to you. And then I think that's important. So I do think it's time for that. But just something connected to that, I once realized how much it costs for our artists, singers, actors, dancers, etc., to, for example, hire venues in Cape Town. And I was like, why don't you guys start your own bit of a union? I'm not saying you must fight them. Excuse me. But what I'm saying is, if a theatre is going to charge you 50,000 Rand, if you belong to this union, we will all get it for 35,000 Rand. Because without you, there is no theatre. There is no grand arena. We are you guys are the ones who... So I think maybe that is an option where radio presenters get together, but then again, legally and the legalities behind, you want our permanent staff and you're a freelancer, we can't stand together because we are not permanent staff members, what's our rights and whatever. So I don't have the answer. I don't know what the solution is, but I just think it needed to be highlighted that I think there is a problem.
Yeah. Now, in your time at KFM, you took you took KFM from wherever it was to over 1.2 million listeners in the breakfast show. So you're not just some Johnny guesswork guy. You know what you're doing. How did you turn KFM into that? I think a large part of what KFM has become is because of what your work and. Yeah. How did you go from 0 to 1.2 million?
So the 1.289 million wasn't the breakfast show, it was the entire station.
And
it wasn't me, it was the team. So we had people like, there was a lady who was that I mentioned earlier, I think Felicia Roman was the first MD. She was instrumental in it. There's a guy called Clive Ridgway who was the program manager, very instrumental. Clive was also one of the people that started Smile FM for the last couple of years. And I talk about it also in the book, but it was just changing the way radio back then was happening, which is why I'm saying I feel like we need a change now. In my opinion, I again am not the expert, I'm not the guru, but I have an opinion because I've been here for a while. And I'm saying is I get bored of the same old type of radio. It's time we come up with something different and new and fun and vibrant and exciting. We tend to, again, my opinion, we tend to copy each other. So Gqerbeha's got mixes, now we're all mixing. Mm-hmm. I don't know, somebody's got a thing and then we all start to do it. Somebody plays the song and now we all play it. No, play the songs that you are supposed to be playing. I'm tuning into you because you are giving me an experience. I might as well tune into another station if I need to.
There's no difference between Smile and KFM, actually. You can hit the wrong button and you can hear the same songs at 25 minutes uninterrupted music on this one and that one. It's the same stuff, actually.
I haven't really
Besides the presenters, obviously they have different programming in the morning.
I haven't really, since I've been back, I try not to listen to radio because I try to, excuse me, I don't want to give my opinion and stuff, but it's an interesting statement that you've made, yeah.
Just for me, just the average guy.
So my question is, I see you entered the podcast scene. How do you feel? What is the difference between the two? How do you word the difference between the podcast world and the what's the benefits of the podcast world? What's the negative pros and cons of each type of thing?
We came up with this we call it the vodcast because it's the video. We came up with the vodcast idea about almost 2 years ago, and because I was in GQ, it was difficult to vent, and I was like, okay, we're going to eventually work out a system. When I land, then we're going to go and record, and then we're going to go whatever. Our vodcast is pre-recorded, so it's not like it's live, like this is live. So that's the first thing. And our vodcast is mostly light. So it's not like we have the free reign to swear and attack people and whatever. We purposefully didn't want to do that. We want to make money from it. And we all know, it's not always that you are lucky enough with controversy will sell or whatever. And all of a sudden you won't have big sponsors coming involved because you've got a certain say or a certain stance. What the vodcast does for us, I think it extends our platform. But it's a fun thing we do. The first person we had on was a young lady called Jody Janchis, and we actually using her song, which was almost unheard of, as our theme song now. We asked her for permission. So she keeps on like, dude, now somebody else has phoned me to come and do the song, or thank you very much, or whatever. So that's quite cool. Then Wayne said, and I wasn't a big fan of it, but I understood why he did it. He said, we need to talk about ourselves also. And the second episode was about talking about ourselves. And then I called in our principal. So we were both the same school, and here's our principal talking about, I used to do this, you do that. We've got, this Wednesday, we've got Salome. Amazing storyteller as well, which I didn't know, and you'll absolutely love it. And the next case will be really D. So we are going to try and kind of do that, and we're going to highlight not just Cape Town and Cape Flats, but almost everybody or anybody we can. That's going to be an interesting conversation. So to compare the two, for me, is not really what it's about. It's an outlet, and it's a fun thing for us to do, and hopefully we can take it further. And I said to Wayne in the beginning, I said, ours must be as good, so it can take up 1 or 2 notches, and we can put this on TV, and that's what we're also kind of aiming at doing.
But I think your experience behind the mic, or your radio experience, obviously plays a role with tackling the podcast scene, because a lot of successful podcasters come from radio.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The guy who produces for us is actually a singer. And I said to him once, if you look carefully, you can see I'm controlling the vodcast, because, and it's the truth. So the cool thing and the amazing thing about Wayne McKay is he goes with whatever I say. And I said to him in the beginning, this is not going to be like, okay, over to you, Roscoe, now you ask your question. If I'm like, dude, is that your question? Like, that was the most boring question I've ever. Anyway, so now he'll tell me. So we do that, and to see him laugh at my dumb jokes makes me happy. When I laugh at his dumb joke, and he's quick, I will, like, he'll be like, he's really like talk, and then I'll throw him off, and he'll come back with a throw off, and then he'll just go back to, and that is something that not everybody can do. And we are blessed in that way, and that's, I call it the sidekick thing. I feed off him and he feeds off me, and I think that will probably make our show, a success. So the end goal is to actually have it on TV.
Nice.
So with all that saying about alternative podcasts and different kinds of media, do you think that radio will exist in 10, 20 years' time? I mean,
definitely.
You just need to plug your phone into Spotify?
No, definitely. It will exist in this country. And I'll tell you why. In 2008 or 2009, I started my website called BAYDU.co.za. It's still alive, but I haven't been, updating it. I've won a couple of awards. I've won the runner-up awards in the SA Radio Awards, and the 1 year I won the blog of the year. And I started it because I wanted my own radio show. And I kept on telling myself, I'll actually get into it when data is way cheaper and free. We are still not there. We're getting there, but we're still not there. So the moment data becomes 89 rand a month, then we can go, okay, well, here's an option now for a 10 up and a 10 down line. Do you know what I mean? But for now, $3.99, $400, $500, not everybody can afford that. Then I've got internet, but not everybody's got the sports channel, but I want to watch the rugby, and I'm going to get DS. So once all of that changes, and in this country, I don't think it's going to be as a first world country where people they've got the DABs, the digital broadcast radios in their cars and all that kind of stuff. I heard from a friend who's an engineer at VW that most cars are already set up that way.
Yes.
It's just a plug and play, and we don't have it, And if you look at our setup of our country, the rural areas, the poor areas, it's easier to have a little radio either off your phone or and you can listen to it as opposed to a TV or a DSTV or all this other type of channels. So it's going to happen eventually, but for now, I think we must do it holistically. If you want to get your message out there, you must do it online, and you must do it, on radio, and you must do it on TV. That's just my opinion. Yeah.
What do the trends kind of predict in terms of how many overall listeners that listen to radio?
I must be honest, I don't know that much. I did do some research for the book, and I could be wrong, but I think in South Africa, about 90% of South Africans have radios. Something ridiculous like that.
I read in the book that radio has. Well, you wrote radio has a kind of magic. It doesn't demand your complete attention at all times. You can be doing other things while you're working, whereas opposed to like
watching a TV or watching online thing,
or even a Spotify playlist. You have to be active with it. You have to, if you don't know, I don't feel like that song, go next. It's sort of like letting go of control and letting somebody else take control of what's happening in the background.
Yeah.
And I think you are right in the sense that radio will continue to exist in some form, but radio in Africa, I know for a fact that's the most established and popular medium of communication.
And it's just the setup of the continent or the layout of the land. Again, we are not a first world country as much as we want to believe it. We are not. It's bloody potholes everywhere. There are places you go, there's no networking cables. People steal stuff because of poverty, whatever the case may be. And that's the reality. So, there's mountains and signal problems or whatever. And the radio tends to be that one thing that, again, like you've mentioned, it's immediate and, it's fun. And there's a bunch of old people listening to radio because they love the stories. And there are still radio stations today who play stories on radio. Many years ago, one of the biggest radio stations in the country, Ukhozi FM, and they got 8 million listeners. I don't know if they still do it, but at that stage they had, in the afternoon drive, they had stories. People were telling stories, whereas we listening to freaking, Jay-Z and driving home, whatever, they were listening to stories. And then the man walked, you know what I mean? So definitely, I think we need an all-encompassing thing for the future. And I talk about also we need to embrace the future. And I said it at my launch also. When you look at what social media influencers are doing, we used to be the social media influence before there was social media influence. When I got sponsored a car, I was told, no, just talk about it and put it on Facebook. I realized I was being an influencer. It's exactly what they're doing today. And I was like, hey, I'm road tripping, we're here in Hermanas, check this place, that kind of vibe.
Do you think that radio in its current form will continue to, I would say, let's look at Prime Media, for example, as a company. I don't want to mention names, but for example, Prime Media, they took over an SABC station and they turned it into something else. It became, in my opinion, sort of like a cultural environment that doesn't really look after individuals, but rather a company culture. Do you think that that radio, or rather people going more freelance or finding alternative means of expression and finding their own audience, is something that will be eventually co-opted by companies like Prime Media? It sounds like I'm picking on Prime Media, but I'm not. I'm just saying, using it as an example. Would that become co-opted by Prime Media or companies like that?
Difficult question to answer. I don't necessarily have the answer to that. But if I can take you 10 steps back, when SABC privatized, when companies bought in, you must remember there was Radio Algoa, which was in the Eastern Cape. There was Radio Jacaranda, which became Jacaranda. There was Radio Highveld, which became Highveld Stereo at 94.7. There was Radio Contre, which became KFM. Radio Port Natal, which I think became East Coast Radio, or stuff like that. And all those stations, when they bought out, they became a successful conglomerate. Some of them are owned, 2 or 3 maybe, or more, are owned by the same company. And that's how they make their money. Kagiso Media is one of them. Prime Media is another one. AME, where I work for, so AME owns Algoa and OFM in Bloem and Classic FM, and so that's kind of what they own. And then you get the East Coast Radio and the Jacaranda, and you get the 94.7 and the KFMs and the whatever. So I don't necessarily have the answer to that, but at the end of the day, a business is a business. And when I worked at Heart And I saw some things and I was like, you know what, Roscoe, you must just spend a year at Algoa to see how lucky you are to be here, kind of a thing. Or, these people, they're just so lax. They must, because, and I admire that about Prime Media. I haven't really worked with other stations except for Heart. I think it was, I don't know if it's part of the Kagiso group or not. I don't think they are. But a lot of them have got percentages shares. Anyway, and I just said, like, I wish people could work there just to get that experience, just to see it's a machine. My stance is when it comes to radio, there's a part for everybody. And this is why I hop on the community radio stations. You have a part to play. You do have a part to play. You and I met at the community radio stations. Our part to play was talking to the community, informing them of how to save money, informing them of community policing forums and where to go to, informing them of send your kids to this place to get a job, informing them of there's free studies. It's just informing people and uplifting people. That is what I feel is communities, point. And commercial is there to make money, and they are there to make money, whether we like it or not, So I do think there's a part for everybody to play. I do feel also that community radio, retail radio, campus radio, online radio stations should become a training ground for people to go to commercial stations.
You did very well there. You dodged a very loaded question. It's like I have to say, maybe there's a future in politics. I noticed that you did really damn well there.
Thanks for the question there, Roscoe Palm.
So look, we're going to move on to the last section of the show, but I would be remiss to not once again implore you to buy this book. Contact Baydu on 072-112-8060 or email him bayduadams@gmail.com. Can we cue up the clip about we'll cue up the clip, but in the meantime I want to talk to you about you're the only guy that I know that will go to the Eastern Cape, go to Gqerbeha and start a klopse. Why?
I did it because excuse me. I did it because
that's the next one, yeah. But yeah, we're onto the klopse thing. This is the rugby one. We're onto the klopse.
I did it because it was a community thing. I met people who were playing in the St. George's Brass Band, which is what I've always wanted to go to.
At the cricket stadium?
At the cricket stadium. And I remember my very first game, I went there and they're like, Baydu, here's your tickets to the box. I'm like, no, thank you. They're like, well, you're not going to go? Yes, I am. I was like, I'm sitting by the band, Bryce. Oh, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm sitting by the band. And I actually became friends with the band. And one of the times, a friend of mine called Emile Bruver, he lives in Tokai, and I met him in GQ. He was a teacher at the girls' primary school. He was a music teacher, and he plays the French horn. And I took him into the cricket, and these guys, it was one of those Warriors games, and they're playing the thing and blah, 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 their thing. And he's like, I want to go and play. So I come. So we walk over, and I'm like, can I go speel? And they're like, they gave him a trumpet, and he blew, and it was... And then I said to them, weet julle nou die Kaapse klopse? And then the guy says, nieuws gaat elke jaar. I'm like, huh? It's like, yeah. No, they actually go to come to Cape Town. So I'm like, okay, that became our connection. So I knew I wanted to do something there. And by starting a minstrel team, because I'm involved with the minstrel team in Mitchell's Plain, again, it's a community project. It's something that the community needs. It's a feel good. You keep kids off the street. Now, once you don't give them a gun, you give them a trumpet. You don't give them drugs. You get them to sing, that kind of vibe. And eventually, one day, I'll never forget, it was a Sunday, and I was like, Jonathan, I've got this idea. It's like, yeah. Ek is in. And I found the other guy, Addy. And Addy's like, no, I'm in. And then we started it. So it was called GQ Entertainers. It was probably one of the best things I've done because it did bring joy to a lot of people. I would have liked to have taken it even further, but obviously I left. But I wanted to see those kids, especially in like suits and do big band sound. I wanted corporates to hire us, so we made some cash. Money would go into the club, buy instruments, buy clothing and stuff like that. But our very first time we decided to go out was on a Heritage Day. And we worked out the route, and we got a bus sponsor, and we bought food, and we went, and we were about 150 people. Our very first time, I was like, oh my goodness, people actually want to join this. So, yeah.
There's a culture in Gqerbeha that's like ripe for a pioneer like yourself to say, like, listen, you're actually a klopse, but you don't know it yet.
You don't know it yet. And it was weird because you had to, when you tell a kid, like, take this, we call it a jingle, which is the tambourine. But there's this thing called a tamarind, which is also a tambourine, but it's the solid skin one.
Yeah.
So you give him a jingle, you're like, yeah, and you're like, oh, sure, but these kids are not even. So now you got to take it and you go like, okay, this is the beat. You gotta go, now you're in between, so you got to teach them, and then the tamarind, this is how you eat. And then they're struggling, but if it was Cape Town, you just give it to kids and they'll just play because they've seen it. There's a big culture there for church bands. There's a big culture there for brigades. So it's that slow marching with those klopse. It's fast. It's a gummy beat or a guma beat. So being able to train people and teach them about it was also like an experience. But once we got it, and we were invited to like festivals and things, and people taking photos and videos of you. We weren't small, we weren't big. We were like 50 maybe. And we were all dressed in uniform, and we get paid to go and play. It was a good feeling. So yeah,
lekker man. That's why. But then you also you found the time to revolutionize rugby,
which is under controversy at the moment.
Check this out. We'll talk about it after this clip. Okay, so then give us the context of that.
So as you can see, I got a Duke in my head. It's one of my alter egos I play. I play a couple.
What's the name of the alter ego?
Well, there's a Butabi, there's a Bradley.
Bradley,
Bradley must like kind of speaks like this.
Okay, so Bradley don't smile when you talk.
Yes, that's Bradley. Butabi is the father, and he's very proud of Bradley. He's Bradley's father. And then there's Brenton, who's like the young guy, man. Like, I just skinners there, man. When I chicken is off the skinners there. And then there's the main guy, which is Bradshaw, who's very effeminate and very, very just like a fun guy. And the reason I actually started Bradshaw, I needed a way to, it's very sinister of me, but I needed a way to poke fun of Cape Coloured people who support New Zealand, because I'm a huge South African fan. And we all know no one's going to take on a gay guy, because I'll make you feel like an idiot if I do that accent. And that's exactly how it started. So anyway, that was also, I started a thing called BTV, and I went to TV, and I'm on Klop, every now and then. I've been for the last 4 years, and blah, blah, blah. And then this was my first time at Loftus Versfeld. So the week before we played with Tri Nations, we played Australia in GQ. We won. And I was like, so nervous for this, because I'm in New Zealand on an amazing team. They are just, there's so much respect for New Zealand, but I'm still South African, And I decided to write an open letter to SA Rugby. And I turned the open letter into a video, and I'm like, can we not play the Sister Bettina after the dinners? Because the haka makes me nervous, man. And that's what I did. And they caught onto it. I tagged them. And they got hold of me, and they're like, okay, we found a cleaner version, and we're going to play it. So since 2018, my very first time, the Saturday, they gave me a set of tickets. The lady next to me is Felicia Roman, that I spoke of earlier.
From KFM?
From my ex-boss. And she lives now in Joburg. And I said, listen to me, I'm going. She's like, how come we're going to go? And, I stayed by her, and the two of us drove through and whatever. And when they played the song, I wasn't sure they were gonna, and that's how I was genuinely elated there. It was the very first time Sister Bettina was played after the South African anthem, and I was at Loftus. A few steps forward, the next day I fly home, and I grab the Sunday Times, as one does, and then the reporter says, oh, this is quite a thing that they played, Sister Bettina after the anthem. And what I didn't realize, or put two and two together, is that it was a week or two after they banned or stopped playing Steve Wolfmeyer's song. The Blow Bull, no, something else. Yes. So he's like, they stopped playing this Afrikaans song, and how are they going black? Is it because our captain's black? I took a photo. yeah. I took the guy's number. I took a photo of the guy's number. Yeah. Took a photo of the guy's name. Got home, and I looked for him on Instagram, and I inboxed him, and he was like, dude, I need to interview you. So that's why I made the Sunday Times, and then I made it, and I think the Wednesday again, the interview. So they interviewed me twice about it, and that's how Sister Bettina got to be played after the anthem.
Why Sister Bettina though?
It's the what's the word? Untold anthem,
Unofficial.
Unofficial. We all know it. Whether we don't know the words, the moment it starts, we get into a groove, and and because of TikToks and things like that, and social media, the kids know it. Like there's not a white Afrikaans kid that doesn't know what Sister Bettina is,
Because it comes after the anthem, or
no, even before that, yeah, it was just, and the weird thing about Sister Bettina, it's not a song. A lot of people think it's a song. It's not a song. It's got Mangarimbi. What it did was they were hype men on the mic, like Americans, so whatever, like DJ Cool, whatever. So as you can hear, it's a Elias beat, it's Timbaland, and it's slowed down to it.
Been a long time.
Yeah, to an African beat, and he's talking over the microphone. So the reason I said it's now controversial is because they went back to him. They've made another version, which is, I'll give my opinion of it, because I don't think it was the right call, but they made another version, and then are using it towards the Rugby World Cup. I understand why, because in the song, there's many swear words, or there's many sort of like crude words, like I think he's talking about women and whatever in the club. So he was the hype man in a club going like, hey, get your bottles up, and that kind of a thing, and he's going with a beat. So it's not a song. Some people then eventually made it into a song. So that is, even though it's for 5 years at least, was my legacy. Every time Sister Bettina plays, it's me. I'm the reason. And sometimes I'm going to watch South Africa play any other country, and I was like, they didn't play Sister Bettina. Oh, they're in Argentina. Or, oh, no, they're in Perth. They're not in South Africa. So every time they play South Africa, they used to play the song.
That's very cool. And I think, that thing is going to stand for things eventually, habits become institutions very quickly. So that will eventually become part of the...
And you know what? It has been for the last while, because social media influencers picked up on like, oh my goodness. And then people would tag me like, Baydu is the reason. And they were like, and I would explain, I would send them the links and like, oh, you're the guy. And everybody else like, dude, thank you very much. Whatever, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of how it got out of hand. Whether this new song is going to take off of his, I don't know. I've only seen complaints. I swear, you must go Google it. I've only seen this is shit, this is cack. And I think from a demographic point of view, if you're a white person, you know Sister Bettina, but you think it's a song.
Yes.
So now he's doing a similar thing over a beat now, but now it's not, well, this is not a song. Why is this guy talking? Why couldn't they have used somebody else? From a person of color point of view, it's like, but this is not Sister Bettina, guys. Like, you know what I mean? They've even added, apparently, I never heard it. People were tagging me and inboxing me and like, thought of you, whatever. They apparently put in Stamp Your Boere Lam in there as well, like the beat, Stamp Your Boere Lam, or whatever. So I need to go and listen to it. But again, even if they stop it for the last 5 years, that was me.
And that speaks to the power of music, because music has this thing about recalling your sense memory. You hear a song from like 1995, whatever, you remember the can you were chasing then or whatever, and so Sister Bettina has become a thing that's part of the fabric of a Springbok match.
Yeah.
So you hear that song, you already know what it means. Yeah.
And I was genuinely serious when I said because of the respect for the All Blacks and New Zealand, it was just like, why must I always feel like, oh goodness, they're going to beat us again? When we can actually beat them, it's just, I believe we play stupidly when we play against them. That's always my thing. And that just changed the whole atmosphere. And I mean, it's a very short clip, but if you look at me going around, everybody's dancing, irrespective of the color of the age. It was just, that is the kind of vibe you wanted. And what I didn't want, and I think I mentioned it in the open letter, I was just cut full of ole, 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 ole. I was bored of that because ole is not even a South African thing, it's a soccer thing from Spain or whatever the case may be. And that is South African. Sister Bettina is as South African as they come.
No, good for you.
Yeah,
so
you.
Look, we're getting to the last bit of this. Right? So you have created all of these characters. With a B, how many?
There's 4.
There's 4. Okay, right. I've heard a rumor that you are writing. You're once again writing, but you're writing a theatre play. Can you confirm or deny?
I can confirm. So it's not so much. I did mention on Saturday, and they asked me what's next, for Baydu, and I was like, I'm busy with the plays. It's stage production. what I want to do, and I'm not going to give away too much, is I want to highlight heritage and cultural stuff that I grew up with, which is one of the reasons I became involved in minstrels. As you grow older, you're like, that's not for me. It's lower LSM. And then you go like, hold on, this is you. This is your people. The minstrel fraternity is such a beautiful thing, Roscoe. For the last 10 years, I've been involved in it. And I always use the example where, I took Kolisi with. So what I do is, how I started was I would take celebrities with. I've done that every year. And they can't even wait. They're like, dude, we must be. And the other misconception is that I give them, we call it gears, which is uniforms. No, they pay for the uniforms. So they are celebrities. Sometimes they'll give me three uniforms money, and then I donate that to someone else, and I would. And that's the beauty of the friends I have, or the celebs that I have. And the one story, it came from my uncle who's now passed on. And he was with a troupe called TV Stars back in the day. And I remember his excitement when he told me, ek het vir Bart van Sewende Land saam met die klopse geneem. He was so excited. And then he said to me, but you can't realize die mense het hom so wat tekkie. Because he was literally like this white guy, and he's famous from Sewende. And everybody was like, I've out whatever. They were tagging him. And that was my worry. That was my concern. Like, oh, shit. One year, there was supposed to be a security company who was a sponsor, and they pulled out. This big oaks came to me and okay, Baydu, we want to look after. And at this stage, I've been doing it for a few years. I'm like, no, we don't need security. Trust me. Are you sure? I'm like, no. They want to be amongst the people. And my thinking is always see Kolisi in that thingy. And without doubt, Roscoe, it's one of the most beautiful things when a guy in the Cape Flats accent comes to me and says, my broer, kan ek 'n fotootjie vat saam met Sia Kolisi? They would always ask me. Yeah. No one would just rush up and like, kyk Sia, always ask me. And then I would say, maar nou vra vir hom, Sia, can I take a photo with you? And he's never said no, him or any celebrity. In fact, when they go, they know that their job is to be on the side so that people can see they're with the team. They're having a mad time, they're dancing all the time. But if somebody calls them over, they'll take the person's phone, they'll take a selfie and then hand their phone back. And I think that for me is just what's beautiful about that. Because again, like I alluded to earlier, it's the music, it's the vibrancy, it's the brass bands, it's the satin outfits. Colored people don't have much. We don't. And this is a completely different topic, but I touched on the New Zealand thing. Colored people support New Zealand because they're gut full of losing. Colored people support. I can't stand English football. I support, from those days, Ajax Cape Town, and I'm a Cape Town Spurs fan now. It doesn't do it for me. It never has. But why, when they support English, what's it called, EPL, does anybody support Aston Villa? Does anybody support Sheffield Wednesday? Does anybody support Hull City? No. Who do they support? The top 5 or 6. Why? Because there's chances of them winning. So we've always lost. Back in the day with the soccer, they chose Brazil or England. Cricket, it's Australia. Rugby, definitely New Zealand. Because they were gut full of losing and they needed a way to win. And just on that, I watched, I think only 2 stadiums in the country I haven't watched a South African rugby game or South Africa versus New Zealand game. And at one stage, it was the funniest thing. And this is where the Bradshaw was born. We watched a game in Kings Park in Durban. It was the funniest thing because there were so many white people in New Zealand t-shirts. What was the argument? The argument was, no, we don't believe in this quota nonsense. Everybody must get fair chance. So what do? We put on a New Zealand jersey. We're burning our Springbok jersey. Which is the exact opposite of why the colored people are wearing their black jersey, because the colored people are saying, no, it's a white sport, die boere is nou altyd in control, or mense kry nie kans. You're like, how ridiculous is this? And that again is where Bradshaw would take them on. And you're like, but now you're saying, but you're saying this. Yeah, but you said that. Yeah, but, So, again, the colored thing, and I always harp on it because I'm passionate about it. I was at a book launch of another guy called Muneel Jacobs the other night. He was on Wednesday, mine was on Saturday at the place called the Gqerbeha Theatre in Bokke. And one of the speakers, I think it was Abdurrahman Adams, is an actor. It was, I think, Four Corners or No My Scully, one of those. And he said, Hello April said that colored people are good at copying other people. And at first glance, I was like, but then I thought about it. I was like, he's so right. We are always copying everybody else. When are we going to be proud of who we are? When are we going to celebrate, whether you want to call us a bastard nation, whether our forefathers are from Khoi or from San, whether our forefathers are from England or Malaysia or Indonesia or India, why can we not be proud of ourselves? Why can we not own our words? Why can we not own our sayings, you know? And that for me has always been a thing that I push hard. So I don't even argue with people who, for example, support New Zealand. I don't argue with people like, yeah, but because you don't think any further. You're doing what everybody else is doing as a sheep. Give me a solution. How do we find a solution to all of this? I've met with Emil. I don't know, you guys probably know Emil from Black Noise.
Yes.
I had breakfast with him the other day because he was here and he's back in the States. And him and I have the same vision and we want to do something. And I told him of a plan that I had and I called it Cape Flats currency. You know that old story where the Jewish people that they circulate their dollars 7 times in their community before it goes out. I want to do that for us. I purposefully go to the car wash around the corner. I purposefully buy fruit from the stall here. I buy tikka chicken from the local guy. I buy sweets from I purposefully do that because my $250, it's just the $50, but for them it's food on their table and we're helping the economy. We need to do more of those things. We need to stand up more for ourselves. You know, when political parties come along, I've never been a politician. I've never been a fan of it. And I get everybody's point. And I always said before, just because I support, for example, the ANC, I must also be man enough to say that the ANC is fucked up here. Just because I support the DA, I must be man enough to say I support the DA, but the DA has also done this to us. And we are not holding people responsible for that. So all we're doing is existing. We're not living, we're not having our voices heard. So this is an example of having my voice heard. I can go into circles now and I would do the LOU. I'm BAYDU ADAMS. I've been in radio for 27 years. I've worked at community radio station. I've worked at online retail, public, commercial radio stations, the biggest in the Cape. And I've written a book. Who are you? And this kind of makes me the expert in my way because not only do I have, and you know what, Roscoe, what I've also realized is we are so ashamed and we are so, I'm sorry because I get passionate about these things, but we are so embarrassed almost to say that we are the experts, and we are the damn experts. We have the experience. We are so used to being brainwashed to be told that you've got a boss, that you've got to do what the boss tells you, that you don't go like, hold on, I'm actually the guy. I can actually be a consultant. I can actually say my say. And if more of those things can happen, more of those things can happen for our kids. Because I'm also just sick and tired of our kids going through the same old shit. I was in PE and it hit me one day. This beautiful young lady, her name is Brittany. What a name for a colored girl, Brittany. But as we all call our kids. And she was studying and she got her first job as a teacher. Was this before she got a job? And she spoke to me, she's like, and she was complaining about stuff. And it hit me. I was like, this child is complaining about the same shit that I used to go through. Which is the same shit my dad used to go to. His father. When is it going to change? And we have to make that change. We have to stand up for that so that our kids and grandkids can have a base to work from. And I mentioned on Saturday when I was talking about what always riles me up is the get over apartheid society. If you actually, I'm not going to just get over apartheid because my grandparents was thrown out of Simonstown. My other grandparents were thrown out of Newlands. I could have owned that house now. I could have owned a 20 to a 40 million rand house. What am I going to inherit? An 800,000 rand house in Mitchell's Plain, crime-ridden, surrounded by whatever the case may be. So we need to speak up about these things. And in the book, I talk about that extensively. I unapologetically speak to my white friends and people in the industry, and I'm like, just understand who we are also. Give us a scope, give us a chance for us to be ourselves, because I feel like you want this level to be reached, but it's your level. It's not my level. I don't need to be at your level. I can be at my peak, and my peak is as long as the job is being done and to the best of my ability. I don't need to sound a certain way. I don't need to do things the way you do it. And like I mentioned earlier, and I'll always say it, if they say something, they can say what they want to. If I speak up, and then all of a sudden Baydu's becoming too vocal. And that shit needs to stop. we need to stand up for ourselves, and we need to go like, well, I actually am the expert, and actually my opinion matters. So
I think we're going to leave it on that climactic note. I want to clip that entire.
Rant, if you will.
I think we're gonna clip that in, and we're gonna put a beat under it. You laugh now, but that's powerful stuff. Baydu.
Before you go, I would just in the vein of what he said. Now we must celebrate each other. So I was fortunate enough to meet a guy called Craig Lee Smith. He's on the screen right now. So he was top management at Eritz here, and he loved radio. And unfortunately, he passed away. And I just want to take this moment this was just a spur of the moment thing, really, just to celebrate this young man, because he's one of us. And when I say us, I mean he's coloured. He was in radio, and he had a hell of a passion. And we were supposed to do like the podcast together, but unfortunately, he passed away before we could work together. But I just want to say rest in peace to this. To this guy, Craig Lee Smith, from radio as well.
Baydu, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Once more, you can get the book. It's called The Cruel and Beautiful. let us not hesitate to say The Cruel and Beautiful World of Radio by author Baydu Adams. Give him a call on 072-112-8060. Or email him at bayduadams@gmail.com. The book retails for 280 Rand. I'm probably going to finish it in the next 2 days, because really it's good, dude. It's really good.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. And you're welcome back anytime.
I'll be here. Whatever you want me to be, I'll be here.
Nantel, thanks for co-piloting Suma, arguing with me first, Chucks.
Yeah, we have to. I haven't seen you for a while, so we'll smoothly lift it in.
Cool, man. Thank you for joining us. You can catch the show on YouTube tomorrow if you're joining us on Facebook Live right now. I'm speaking with a smile on my face. And we're out for now, but see you next Monday.
Yeah.